And thank you so much for all of you for being here and rallying with us today. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
In the back? Awesome. Thank you so much.
Sorry.
I'm Ravi Reddy, the Associate Director for Advocacy and Policy here at the Asian American Federation. We represent the collective voice of more than 70 nonprofits serving more than 1.3 million Asian New Yorkers. We're here because in the loudest, brightest city, the most diverse city in the world, we demand visibility. Every 6th New Yorker is Asian. 7 in 10 of us came from another country, choosing to lay down roots here, choosing to call New York our home.
Thanks.
We are grocers and nurses and taxi drivers and teachers and everything in between. We are cornerstones of our community. And let's be clear about one thing. In these unprecedented times, if we were to call our city the city that never sleeps, it was our community, along with other marginalized communities, who kept it awake. But once again, our community's nightmares are playing out on our streets. Our hate crime reporting tool and others recorded more than 1 bias incident or hate crime a day this past year. Nearly 500 reports. And we know that not everyone reports. Ranging from an 89-year-old grandmother who was lit on fire last year in Brooklyn to the man who was stabbed just around the corner from here 2 nights ago, who is still fighting for his life. So once again, as we have said in every venue over the past year, we are here to say more must be done to keep Asian Americans safe in our city. That's right! Right? There we go. Today we'll hear directly from people like Noel Quintana, whose story makes real the tragedy and the accompanying resiliency of our community members. We'll also be hearing from elected officials, community leaders, and allies who have shown up to stand with us today. But first up, I'd like to introduce Joanne Yu, the Executive Director of my organization, the Asian American Federation.
Yay, Joanne.
Hi everyone! Give yourselves a round of applause for showing up on this cold day. Thank you for choosing to spend your Saturday with us. It's so great to see you, and I'm gonna try to do this without crying because it's been really, really hard for all of us. I want to tell a special greeting to my Asian American community. I want to tell you how much I've missed you. It's so great to see you guys here. And all of the faces that I haven't seen for over a year, I see you on the screen through Zoom, and that's not good enough. I miss seeing you on the subway. I miss getting together. I miss seeing your children. I miss seeing you on the street, and I miss knowing that you're okay. It's really been terrifying for our community because we are hit by the pandemic of this horrible pandemic, and also the racism that our community is encountering. It's been unbearable, and it's been really tough knowing that I can't even keep myself and my staff safe, let alone the Asian American communities, uncles and the aunties and our grandmas, because what is happening is not right. Thank you for coming, and I look around and see let me stop being a crybaby. I look around to see so many friends here, along with our elected officials, who have just been so great with us and offering their support and standing with us. I also see some friends that I've known forever who keep me sane. I see so many of my friends who are I can't mention you because of nonprofit laws. But all of you who are running for office, thank you all for coming here. I know you should be campaigning, but you are here to support our community and to stand against hate. I see my big brother, I see Sharon, I see all of the folks that I see my friend Tom. I know that my best friend is here somewhere. I haven't seen her in a year. She lives in New York City. We celebrate our birthdays together, and we just haven't had. We're afraid to meet up. I mean, this is the fear that we are dealing with. Right now, we're fighting a global pandemic. Asian American communities are we're also fighting racism. Since last January, we've been seeing an increase in attacks against Asian New Yorkers. We're getting spat on, we're getting punched, shoved, slashed, and stabbed. And the sad part is that these scary acts are happening to some of the most vulnerable folks in our communities. Right now, Asian Americans are scared, we are outraged, and we are devastated. We are afraid to leave our homes, and we are afraid to go to work, we are afraid to go out for a walk. But the biggest fear of all is that we look at our fellow New Yorkers and wonder if they'll be the ones to harm us. We cannot let these harmful incidents stoke distrust and suspicion. For my Asian American family, stay strong, speak out, and stand together. And for the rest of my fellow New Yorkers, thank you all for coming to stand with us in solidarity. Thank you all for coming to speak with one loud and powerful voice that we reject these hateful attacks on our community and the racist views that victimize us. As the vaccine tap has been turned on in DC and we are starting to see the light at the end of the COVID tunnel, we need to figure out how to dig ourselves out of this devastation. What we prioritize in our post-COVID brave new world is up to us. I ask you to prioritize each other. I ask you to prioritize community. Let's protect each other and let's care for each other. Let's look out for one another. Let's see the best of humanity during the height of COVID, with neighbors checking on neighbors, mutual aid societies that formed to make sure nobody went hungry and everybody felt okay. We have to continue to do that for each other, not just during the pandemic, but every single day. These are the values that we hold as New Yorkers and as people, and we all share them, so we really need to put this in practice. Thank you all for coming out on this rainy day. Thank God it stopped, for your solidarity. I want to thank a few people. I want to thank my staff. Every time I say, oh my gosh, we're going to do a rally, in the midst of a pandemic, they said, okay, let's do it, right? So here we are. They made this happen in a week, and thank you so much. They never say no when it comes to standing up for our community, even as they're dealing with their own pain and their own fears. I want to thank the New York Immigration Coalition. When we do these rallies, I call Murad and say, you need to show up for me, you need to give me your volunteers, and you need to hook it all up. And so they've been wonderful, and I really appreciate all the support, Murad. I want to thank all the volunteers who are here. And the one thing I want to ask all of you, so much of what is happening in public, and people are, I know it's shocking to see a violent act happening in front of you. I ask all of you to be an upstander, to be good to the person next to you, understand what is happening, and to say, are you okay? What can I do for you? Please be an upstander and stand up for your fellow New Yorkers. My final ask for all of you, as we leave this rally, we're going to hear some great promise, great elected officials who stand with us. You're going to be inspired. But the one thing I ask all of you as we leave this rally and you go home, please stop by a small business and support them. Please do something for them because they are suffering. Our community, small businesses have been suffering since January. It's been over a year. Give them some love, show them some love, and let's keep our small businesses open. Thank you everybody for coming. Stay safe, everyone. Thank you. You guys, it is my pleasure now to introduce Congresswoman Grace Meng, and I can read you all of the great accomplishments, but I want to tell you the personal stories of me and Grace. Like, I know she's in DC really doing all the hard lift, but she's always really mindful of getting the community story right, making sure that the community voices are heard, making sure the needs of our community is front and center at all times. And so it is with my distinct pleasure, one of my sheroes, one of my sisters, fighting the good fight in DC and here as well, Grace Meng. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you to Joanne Yu, to the Asian American Federation, to your whole team and volunteers for making it possible for us to gather here today. Thank you to all my colleagues in government, and I especially want to say thank you to some of our city and statewide elected officials who have been very vocal, public, and early in showing their support for the Asian American community in New York. We have our Attorney General, Tish James, who has been publicly with and behind us since day one. We have our amazing Senator Schumer, not just our senator, the majority leader of our entire United States Senate. And we will also hear later from our current mayor, Bill de Blasio, who has also been very public and standing with us on this issue since day one. I also want to thank so many of our ally groups who are here today, from New York Immigration Coalition, Hispanic Federation, and so many others. If you look around the place today, it's not just Asian American faces. It is a group, a collage of diverse voices of the city of New York. And it is many of the same faces that showed up for people who were murdered, like George Floyd and Breonna Taylor, over the last few months across the city and across the country. We need to make sure that we are not fighting racism with more racism, that we are fighting racism with solidarity, that we are not ever pitting one group against the other. It is everyone against racism, and while it's sad and unfortunate that we have to gather here today, we have an opportune moment to have really difficult conversations with people, not just about racism towards our community, but sometimes even racism within our own communities. The APA community has been fighting two viruses over the last year. One of the pandemic that people all over the world are fighting, but one even before the pandemic hit us here in New York, the pandemic and the virus of discrimination and bigotry. We saw small businesses, we saw community members and leaders suffer from before we got coronavirus because people thought that they brought the virus over. We saw leaders of our own country and the former president and my Republican colleagues in Congress use words proudly like Kung Flu and Chinese virus. They empowered what is happening today. They couldn't even vote for my simple symbolic resolution that passed the House just to say that Congress stood up against discrimination towards Asians. They couldn't vote for that. 164 of them voted against that.
Shameful.
It's now been a year later. We have a president in Joe Biden and a vice president in Kamala Harris who not only stand with us, but Joe Biden actually signed legislation last month to say that he stands against discrimination towards Asians and he's taking more substantive moves to help us combat it.
Oh.
We are working with the administration and Senator Schumer to push legislation like the COVID Hate Crimes Act. We need contact people in our government who are helping us handle what is going on, to keep track and to give us more resources to fight against the hate. Too many people, like Joanne said, are living in fear right now. We know people who are literally scared to leave their homes, not just because of the virus, but because of this bigotry. The United States of America has a long history and a legal history of discriminating and excluding Asian Americans that stems from fear, ignorant fear. Whether it was the Chinese Exclusion Act that was passed by Congress, or our own federal government who locked up Japanese Americans and were incarcerated in camps, whether it was the death and murder of Vincent Chin, all the hate crimes that have continued since 9/11, and the Muslim ban that was literally signed into law by the former president. We've been taught our entire life to just fit in, just be quiet, don't speak up, be invisible. If you are invisible enough, you will be seen as American. But we are here to say that we will be invisible no more. No more! We will speak up. Speak up! We thank everyone for speaking up and standing with us. And we say that we are American too. We're American!
Yes.
Thank you so much, Congresswoman Meng. And yeah, absolutely, good trouble. Making people feel safe really is a community building issue, and it's really about how our community and all of our communities interact together and advocate together.